Good early morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. We're out here bright and early to finally sow some beans in the hopes of not being dive bombed by our resident bee. And then we're going to be going to try to figure out the irrigation issue at the farm, as well as doing a hive dive to make sure they have enough room so they don't swarm. So stay tuned. Well, it is 7 a.m. It's 50 degrees, so that generally means they're going to be in their hives. It's a possibility that she is an old guard bee who's been kicked out and is not allowed back in the hive at night, and so she still might come get me, but we'll see. So I'm going to move fast. Okay. We're going to sow some beans. Now these packets have been sitting out here in the morning dew for 2 mornings now. So I think I'm going to sow all of them, and we'll just buy new beans next year because chances are they're compromised at this point. So let me show you what we're doing. In this birdie's bed, we're going to have 4 varieties. This is a bush bean here. This is Gold Rush. They're lovely, really pretty plants with nice gold pods that are super easy to see on the plant, which makes it really nice. Then we have a packet of dragon tongue beans. They're going to take over this section here. Then we have this new bean to me. This is French Fillet bush bean from Botanical Interest. And then here in this section, we're going to be doing these Jacob's cattle bean. I love growing dried beans for soups and things like that. I have a few left in this dried soup bean blend that gave me a bunch of beautiful ones last year. So if I have space, I'll pop those in. And then over here along this stretch of irrigation, we're going to put this Royal Burgundy bean. It's a bush bean. Then we've got a tricolor here. So there's gold, purple, and green. And finally, Provider. And Provider really is a provider. It really pumps out the beans. Now I have a trellis over here that I'm going to sow. I don't have the beans out here with me, but I'm going to sow a climbing bean that's new to me this year. But also in this bed that's going to be corn, beans, and squash again. Once the corn goes in and it gets to a decent height, then I'm going to sow the same bean around the base of that corn, because it is a climber. It will use the corn to climb, but the corn needs to be pretty advanced before you can sow that, because the beans grow really fast. And so if you sow the beans at the same time as you're putting the corn in, they're going to overtake the corn and it'll be an end game for the corn. And then the squash will go in afterwards in spaces. So I'm going to try something new this year and plant in hills the corn in hills, which is what I've read actually is more common in indigenous Three Sisters gardens. So I'm going to do that. All right, let me get started sowing these beans because I also need to get my kiddo to school. So good news, got all the beans sown with no bee problems. And then Dylan helped me find the puncture in the line. It was about halfway down, so about 600 feet down. And we repaired that, and now everything's good irrigation-wise. That's a huge relief. So it is just a little afternoon, and now is the time. I have to get suited up for a quick hive inspection. Mostly all I'm going to do, this should go quickly and it shouldn't be stressful for me or the bees. I'm going to open the box tops and look in the top boxes of each hive. When I open those up, if I see the frames are all filled with either resources like honey and pollen or brood, and they only have 1 or 2 frames left, I'm going to put another box on top, another medium box, that can act either as a honey super for them, which most likely it will because it'll be the top box, or extra space for brood. So that's all I'm doing. And I have the boxes already prepared because I have a hive that's 10 frames and a hive that's 8 frames. So it's two different size boxes. So I'm just going to get suited up. We will see what's going on in those hives. It should be fast and easy. I shouldn't have to really disturb them at all. And then, because it's only 2 days away, I'm going to investigate briefly the splits. The queen should have had a chance to mate by now. So I'm looking in there to see if I can find any evidence of, first of all, if I could see a queen. Secondly, if there's any evidence of egg laying. And the reason I'm doing it today, even though the window really goes until Thursday when you shouldn't be opening the hives. It's technically been long enough for her to mate and we've had enough good weather. But after today it's going to be over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But from today until like late next week, it's going to be highs in the mid 50s and lows in the 30s and rain. So that is terrible time to go into a hive to inspect. It needs to be much warmer than that and sunny and not breezy to cause the least amount of disturbance. And really what you're doing there is you don't want to chill the brood. The bees work very, very hard to keep the brood at 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and going into a hive and opening it up and exposing them to cold can kill the brood and potentially the queen as well. So that's what I'm going to do. This shouldn't take very long. I will try to find a way to film it, but there won't be any sound because I just have to focus too closely when I'm doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and get suited up, get my smoker started. I shouldn't even have to use that much smoke. And then hopefully we can be in and out in under 15 minutes. So that went really well. The bees were very chill. I don't even think I needed smoke. So that was really nice. I put new boxes on top of both hives. I didn't take those frames out, but I could see that they had built out comb and there was honey in a lot of them. So that's good. Hopefully they have enough room for brood. I think they do. But yeah, plenty of population in both of the main hives. Now the splits were a slightly different story. I tried filming all this. I don't know where the camera quit. It was in direct sun and it just stops working frequently when it's in the sun. So the first split I examined was interesting. There was tons of capped brood in there, which means that there's a queen laying and they're working. There was a lot of bees, which is great. So I feel pretty good about that split. The second one, I'm not sure about. It had a lot of bees, but there was no capped brood. I couldn't tell if I saw eggs. It's really hard. You have to hold the frames up so that the sun comes in just at the right angle, and I'm just not good enough yet to see it. But I did see a lot of nectar and pollen being brought in. So if they're collecting the resources, they probably either have a queen that is on a mating flight or has just been mated and she just hasn't started laying yet. So I'm not going to mess with them until at least a week and a half, and we have to wait till the weather gets better. And then at that time, for the splits, I will put them into large 10 frame boxes. And so they're 5 frames right now. I will add 5 additional frames that hopefully I have some that already have drawn out comb because that'll help them. And then they will go to their new home with the folks I'm giving those splits to. So I'm looking forward to that because then I can clean up the garage of all the bee stuff. It's taking up a lot of space. So that went really well. And we got the irrigation problem sorted. It is 80 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It's beautiful, but tomorrow we're going to be more than 30 degrees cooler again. So for the next 10 days, we're going to be back into the 50s during the daytime, and cloudy and raining a lot of that time, which is, I'm not going to complain about the rain because it'll be the last that we see until November. So I'm not complaining about that. But I think what I'm going to do, because I'm looking at the seedlings in the greenhouse, the ones that are been in the trays for a while, they are starting to suffer. Doesn't matter how much I'm fertilizing, they need to come out of those trays. So, for instance, the marigolds, they're starting to look rough. Some of them are just failing even when they get watered. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm hardening some of them off now. I think I'm going to transplant tomorrow at the farm because they should do pretty well. It's not going to be too cold. It'll be mostly cloudy the whole next week. They'll get fresh rain, and I think that will help them transition pretty well. So they won't be going into hot temperatures. It'll be better for transplant. So tomorrow is going to be about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. High, and it'll be partly cloudy. So it's still going to be a beautiful day, but I think it's going to be a good day for transplanting. So what I need to do is use the fork to open up those sections of the upper beds that, have the questionable soil. However, when I went out today, the feverfew that I, opened up around and added fresh compost, it's looking beautiful. It's very deep green. It hopefully will put on some growth. It usually blooms for me in June. It should be bigger than it is now, but hopefully with this little burst of warm weather and, it still has 2 months to go, hopefully we'll be on track. All of the snapdragons that I planted the other day after opening up that bed with the fork look really good. So I think adding compost, and I have plenty of fresh compost out there, is going to help tremendously. So I have bed space. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. I'll just move aside the irrigation, use my pitchfork and just really open up all of that soil that's not currently planted, and then add a whole bunch of compost to the top, and again go through it again to mix it in, probably with a hand rake, and then replace the irrigation, level out the bed, and go ahead and transplant. It'll be totally different from what I had originally planned in terms of my crop plan, but that's okay. I actually might even put out the first succession of zinnias because I'm starting to notice some disease starting on the leaf ends of some of them, and they're getting pretty big. And so I have 2 successions going in the greenhouse right now. So if I put that first succession out and it doesn't do well, then I can always pull those out and put the second one in. I'm going to start another succession in another week or so. So it'll be okay. But I need to start getting some of these things out, either that or bumping them all up. And I usually don't ever do that with stuff from the soil blocks because they're usually ready to go out. So I think tomorrow is going to be some transplanting. And that will not only clear out the greenhouse a little bit, but also be better for them. They'll have fresh air, it'll be less disease vector, and hopefully if they are suffering from, some struggle, that will fix the problem because they'll get fresh fertilizer, fresh soil. So that's gonna be our plan tomorrow. I don't know how much we'll get done, but every little bit helps. And then tomorrow night is our last night with family. It's also my last night to have Dylan here. He goes back on Thursday, back to school for his spring term before he comes home for summer break. So that time is feeling precious. I'm already sad about having him have to go back on Thursday. That's how we're gonna roll for the next couple of days. Friday, I think it's gonna be raining all day, so I'm not sure what we'll be doing that day. But for the next 2 days, it's going to be transplanting while the weather still holds. So thanks for joining me today, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and maybe spring is on the way where you are. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.